Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to another New Jersey Film Festival Zoom Q&A session. Today we have Elizabeth Ahlstrom, director of the wonderful documentary about Susan Taylor, or Pi Taylor, entitled Nobody Famous. We also have Katie Scrivani here. She was one of the New Jersey Film Festival judges. And today we're going to be doing a question and answer session with the director. This has been something we've been doing since last fall because of COVID. Our film festival, which is a biannual one, takes place in the fall and in the spring. And we're aligned with the university calendar. So the spring festival is actually in January and February, which is in the dead of winter. But because we're tied with the spring semester, we call it the spring festival. And both of them have to be done virtually because of COVID. So normally we would have a Q&A session as part of our live festival where we have the visiting artists there talking about their film at the end of the program. But since we don't have that capability, we've been doing it as a way to promote the film and to kind of ask the questions before the actual screening, but we've actually seen the film. And then you guys will be enticed to go and check out the film yourself when it plays on, I always want to make sure I get the date right, Saturday, February 6th. The film will be video on demand for the entire day. And you can start watching it at 12:01 a.m. on that day, the 6th of February. Or let's say you want to start watching it at 11:45 in the evening on that day. You still have 24 hours to finish it. So you can get ticket information at our website, which is behind me, njfilmfest.com. When you get to our homepage, you click on where it says New Jersey Film Festival Spring 2021 schedule, and then there'll be another link to click once you get there, which will send you to our eventive.org page. We've partnered with Eventive. They've done a masterful job streaming films for us. We used them in the fall. We had absolutely no technical issues, which, if you know anything about the media arts field, Murphy's Law rules, what can go wrong will go wrong. And knock on wood, nothing has gone wrong so far, and hopefully that will continue into the spring. Eventive does the streaming for the major studios like A24, Magnolia, so we know we're in good hands with them. And you can find out when other films are showing. We'll be screening films from the 30th of January to the 21st of February on select Fridays, Saturday, and Sundays. And go check out our lineup. But let's turn our attention now to this wonderful documentary, which is about a folk singer who started off as Susan Taylor, but eventually would change her name to Taylor Pi. And director of the documentary Nobody Famous, Elizabeth Ahlstrom, is here. So tell us, Libby, how did you get involved in making this film?
Thank you, Al. Wow, it's 3.5, almost 4 years ago now. And I was approached by Julian Honatsky, who is the director of photography on the film. And he and I had worked on some commercials together, and I think a music video or two here in Nashville, Tennessee. And he rang me one day and just said, "Do you want to co-produce and co-direct?" And I said, "Oh, no, I'll just produce, you direct." And long story short, for a period of time we were co-directing. He had to leave the film for professional reasons, but so ended up just being myself and Alison Getty, who's the editor of the film, working together mostly. And yeah, it was a friend of Gillian's, Susan Taylor Pi. And she had been a friend of Julian's for about 10 years. And a woman in Texas, down in Fredericksburg, Texas, wanted to make a film about Taylor, or Susan Taylor, and said, "Here's a budget, go and make a film."
That's
which
awesome.
kind of never happens, right?
That's awesome. That's terrific. Yeah. And what I like so much about the film, it's obviously the title of the film is perhaps referencing Cameron Crowe's feature film, Almost Famous. Maybe not.
We realized there was there was a bit of a crossover there. Absolutely, yeah.
But I guess Susan is, I knew a little bit about the Pozo Seco Singers when I was growing up. I mean, I'm a late baby boomer, and I think I remember seeing them on the Smothers Brothers show. I think I remember them playing one of their hit songs. And but then I didn't know anything. I mean, I learned so much from your documentary. I actually went out and bought her solo record, and a couple of other things that she did, because I really became a fan as a result of your documentary.
Oh, wonderful. She'd love to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, without hogging all the questions, Katie, I'll let you go next, but that she reminds me a lot of our film festival, where she's really wants to pursue, folk music in all of its purity and not be corrupted by the system. She did not want to go and become famous. She was very happy staying kind of on the edges, as she calls it, in your documentary. And I think for us, it's the same way. The minute this film festival became too corporate, I wanted nothing to do with it. And I founded this festival almost 40 years ago, and it's probably survived because of that. I think in many ways, keeping its integrity was very important to me. But anyway, Katie, you asked Libby some questions.
Okay, I guess my first question would be more on the technical side. So how long did this take from the conception of the idea until completion of your project?
Okay. So we started in April of 2017, and we finished editing July 2020 of this year. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, a long time.
Yes. And okay, so you play this line where Taylor Pye is being interviewed by some man after she performs, and the line is, "But a girl that pretty, whether she sounded good or not, you still would have hired her." And I think that's replayed twice. So how does that?
Michael Douglas, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you. So I guess how does that relate into the central message of this film? Or is there a central message of this film?
So great question. So we played that line twice for a couple of different reasons. One, we thought it was just a pivotal moment in sort of the arc of the story of the documentary, in her journey, her personal journey and professional journey. And also just the zeitgeist, right? Like, just it's timely to hear something like that, and that, how far have we come? Have we really come that far at all? And obviously with Me Too and so many other things, we've moved, but slowly, incrementally. And it kind of almost goes to what Al was just saying in terms of her integrity. We wanted to show her reaction to the line, and as you saw, and just her level of, like, one of the things in the film, in terms of not wanting to demonize anyone or anything, but also just show what it was like and what it can be like for a female artist, and for someone like herself, who so wanted to be an artist of integrity and hold her own in at the time, very much a man's world, as you see with that line. But also but still do her craft out in the world and bring it to people. And balancing all those different things, it was a challenge for her, and can still be a challenge. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I think being a woman director, being a woman artist, especially at the time, I mean, literally the feminist movement is kind of kicking into a next year with Gloria Steinem, and a lot of the found footage that you use and the archival footage that you use for the 60s, 67, 68, where you break down the film by year, underscores the challenges for artists that are women and at that time. And I think, focusing on the way that she looked afterward really tells you a lot about the restraints that a woman artist would have at that time. And even a woman director at this time, how many women directors do we have in the film industry and, making big budget films? I mean, there are a few, but not nearly proportionate to the population. And so I think it's still a struggle to kind of move forward. And I think this film never really shouts out a kind of feminist message. It definitely is underscored. I guess you wanted to put her life to the fore, But I also wondered, we didn't get much about her love life in the movie. Was that something that was intended to keep a focus on the music? Is that something she wanted?
So nobody's asked that question. I'm so glad you did. So it was very obvious from the outset that she did not want to share much about her personal life. And as a filmmaker, you're sort of like, what are we, what's the story then? And so it was a constant kind of, I don't know if struggle's the right word, but challenge maybe, to find a story and an engaging story without having to become sort of, she used to use the term air my dirty laundry. I don't want to air my dirty laundry. And it's like, well, I'm making a documentary. So it was something that I really struggled with, and the other filmmakers I worked with struggled with, but it became sort of like the title of the film, Nobody Famous. It's like, well, what if we just tell a story that's kind of, doesn't air dirty laundry and can really just be almost innocent. And like you said, it's sort of the certain themes are under the radar, but they're there, but we don't have to kind of, shout them out.
Right.
And I kind of in the end loved that. I sort of liked it. I like that we have a film where, there's a lot, believe me. We would be driving along somewhere because, we drove all around the country and flew all around. And she'd say, did I tell you about the time that, Don Williams this, or John Denver that, or Bob Dylan this? And I'd be like, oh my God, we need that in the film. But she just didn't
want that. Yeah, because it's swirling around her and just being tied into Albert Grossman and all of the people that he worked with, because it was also, I don't know, I'm reading Peter Frampton's autobiography. And he talks about it also fleetingly, but it was there. And I was kind of shocked to say when he was in a relationship, he was a monogamist for the most part with his first wife, and he didn't want to have relationships with other people. But then when his relationship was breaking down with his wife, then he started to explore. And, it's not something that I relished, but I felt as if when I was watching Taylor throughout the film, that she seemed to be very much at peace with herself. And that's what I think you wanted to put forward.
Yeah, she is. And she also, part of her integrity is that as a person, just her own value system and everything, it's just not part of who she is to want to tell that part of her life. She doesn't feel like she should or have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
And that's also kind of a sexist angle of wanting to know the dirt, and
I want to know it too.
No, I mean, I think gossip is one thing, but I think to share it as part of a film that celebrates the music more than the person in some ways is more important, I think, to the film in general. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And you'll probably notice there's something like 37 songs in this film, which like licensing the music was like a whole nother thing. But I love that because I'm a music fan too, a huge music buff. And so I loved that. I loved really focusing on the music, and then really, because I've made a lot of music videos. And so I almost, in each of those sequences where we had a soundtrack of some kind, I loved that idea of this is like a little mini film clip, a music video, I should say, right?
Yeah, very much so. And I didn't want to hog all the questions. So Katie, you go ahead. I'll come back to the one I wanted to ask.
I was going to ask that, so you're very much removed from the documentary, which I thought obviously puts the emphasis on Taylor, but occasionally you do, like we can hear you from behind the camera. And I wanted to know why you kept those parts. I think it definitely shows like her funny, like personal side. So, I mean, you can talk.
Yeah, I think that, to be honest, it was a personal choice for me in terms of the filmmaker that I am. I actually have a background as an actress back in Australia, and but I'm one of those actor or ex-actresses, whatever you want to call me, that is very shy, and I don't actually want to be out in front so much. So that was part of it, my own personal preference. And also, I don't think I needed to be, or anybody else. I think there were so many moments that we could have included where there was more interaction with the crew and with her. But again, to your point, we wanted to keep the focus on her. And we also didn't want to go overboard with those silly moments. We wanted to just have a few that revealed the warmth between her and the crew, and just how inclusive she was, and let it reveal who she is as a person, and again, not make it about me or us. Yeah, it's the filmmakers.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Katie.
Oh, no, you can go. I know you have a question.
Allison's editing kind of keeps the film moving.
Yeah.
Where there's no real lull in the film. I mean, I think.
Oh, thank you.
You're able to kind of, you see as it's moving through time, how she changes, how Susan/Taylor changes. And I think the way that the editing is done propels that narrative. But my question to you is, when was the nodal point? When did Taylor actually change her name to Pye, from Susan Taylor to Taylor Pye? I mean,
Right.
was it when she moved to New York, or was it when she moved back to Nashville?
It was kind of it wasn't like an event. It was more of a transition. And yes, definitely between being up in sort of New Hampshire, or where she was up in the north.
Berkshires, yeah.
Oh, Berkshires, thank you. And then back down into Tennessee, into Nashville. And there's a moment in the film, I think, if you remember, where she does see her name on a bill. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I kind of like that, you know? Yeah, it was definitely a process, but that was a moment where she saw the name up there and decided, yeah, that feels right for me.
Yeah. I mean, did that mean that she made a decision to kind of erase her past and start over? Is that what she had intended? I mean, who knows, right? But maybe you lived with her for 4 years practically.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I still do to some extent.
Yeah.
So there was a part of her that absolutely didn't want anything to do with the fame side of her career. She felt that in some way it wasn't her authentic self, because she really did have to play a part to some extent, for reasons that we've talked about already. Yeah. But she has embraced it more and more. Like, and I'm sure, you know, this is a filmmaker that she had her own journey of realizations and coming tos and remembering things in the process of making this film, that was beautiful to watch, because she sort of softened around that part that she, you know, there was a little bit of love lost between her and Don Williams, and because, you know, he was very famous, obviously, and there were some choices made that I'm sure were just choices made, you know, by the record company that he had to go along with, or, you know, in terms of songs he recorded of theirs and different things that happened. But she really softened and has embraced it more, and I guess integrated it back into her experience of herself in the career that she's had. You know, in 70, you know, because she was singing and playing from the age of like 5 or 6 or something. So, yeah.
But she had the opportunity to do the same thing as Don Williams, where Grossman's team wanted her to split from the singers and the Pozo Seco Singers and go on her own path and become a kind of Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
I didn't understand, once Janis Joplin was taken in by the Grossman team, why they kind of discarded the Pozo Seco. That was not clear to me. Do you know why?
No, absolutely. So, so there's a couple of great things there, story-wise. And with this movie, because of the people we came into contact with, there were so many stories we could have gone off into. But what happened, and there's a couple of great documentaries out at the moment that I will try to remember, that speak specifically to this issue. And what happened is Janis Joplin had her first big concert somewhere in California, and Clive Davis was there, who had gone to Columbia Records. And he saw her play, and he knew that folk was dying, was dead. And because he was then sort of at the helm or in A&I or something in Columbia Records, the whole direction of the record company changed. And so rock and roll kind of took over from folk. Folk died in that moment.
Yeah. And I think she didn't want to do pop stuff. I mean, she did some.
Yeah.
She's more interested in the kind of roots music, folk music.
Yeah, and not so much as a genre, although that's definitely true. I think it's definitely the lyrics, the messaging. She hadn't come out in that sense, but she was very politically and socially driven. Yeah, and is today very much so.
Yeah, it's really hard to do that in Tennessee, I'm sure.
We're in a blue dot here in Nashville.
I have friends that live in Nashville too, and they feel like you step out of the suburbs of Nashville. It's
yeah, one county over and I'm in trouble. Yeah.
Katie, go ahead. I'm sure you have more questions.
So I'm kind of interested in you as a person, because you sound, I'm just learning so much about you right now. What is your next project? Do you have a next project yet? Is it?
So great question. A couple of things I'd love to say about that. One is it's my first feature film, feature documentary. And so it's been a real challenge to bring out my first film in COVID. Right, because if I watch one more video of a female director, Al, right, that says, oh, and my next project started because I met so-and-so at this film festival or did this. So I haven't been able to do any kind of networking. I hate that word, but I haven't been able to really go out there and promote the film and myself in a traditional sense, in a conventional sense. So that's been a challenge. But as far as the next project, there's actually a narrative script that I'm working on, because I'd love ultimately to do some narrative work as well, in terms of a feature film. And there is a documentary that we're looking at to maybe get funding for. Yeah, I would love to get something into film festivals next year too, but it might be a year break in between, I think.
That seems to be the modus operandi today, because other filmmakers, we've done Zoom, it's just releasing a film now is really tough. But we'll go out of our way to promote your film, not just with this, because it's a really special film about a special person. And nobody famous is kind of a misnomer, because the person doesn't need to be famous to be important.
Oh.
And she certainly holds the torch for those who want to, push the arts forward and music forward in society, where, things are collapsing, that it's what art that keeps us, moving forward and keeping us whole in many ways, and creative. And if we didn't have that, everything would look like an Apple store, and
oh, God.
where it's all stripped down and there's no sense of detail, of warmth. It's just a cold and sterile environment. And I think that's what Pi was really all about, trying to, bring music to the people and have people push that talent that's inside all of us forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we have time for one more question. Katie, go for it.
Okay. What advice would you give people trying to break into this field, especially as a woman?
Oh, wow. Oh. So I'm not formally trained. I did go to university to study visual arts, but film was just always a passion for me. And as I said, I started out in front of the camera first. And I just, to Al's point that he just mentioned, art, it's so important to just keep creating. So I worked in corporate, I've worked in and out of the arts all my life, but I've done what I needed to do to earn a living, but then take time out to get creative and just keep creative no matter what. And in terms of getting into the field, I feel like I still didn't get into the field. Like I still feel like somewhat of an outsider in terms of I'm not really deeply involved in the Nashville film scene or anything like that. I'm just one of those people who just head down, bum up, and what can I do to get the camera out and make something. Some friends who wanted music videos made, I'll make it for free. Make things for free. And then you get the serendipitous moment where someone calls you and said, do you want to make a film? Like, seriously, it really is that sort of just take the action and have the intention, and then, you know, everything else will, you'll be met halfway. Yeah.
It's just so funny how things, you know, when you least expect it, the genie grants you 3 wishes, you know, and after you've done so many mitzvahs for others and done things to help others, that it comes back 3, 4, 5-fold. And I think that's really special.
And can I say one more thing, Katie?
Of course.
Because obviously you're a woman, Katie, and I just, to be really vulnerable, I have cried and cried and cried and cried about not being an artist at times, because I felt like I wasn't, you know, being paid to make a film or anything like that. But, you know, it's not easy, and there's a lot of pain involved in sort of making the life that you want as an artist. And that, it's not easily won, but it's worth it, you know. And the other last thing I want to say about being a woman, when I was on set as an actress, I experienced a lot of things like, and I always knew when I got behind the camera, I just wanted to be a kind filmmaker. Like, just be kind. Just be kind, and it goes a long way.
That's really wonderful. And I feel the same way. One of my mentors said it's impossible to achieve the aim without suffering.
Oh.
So that's something you can take close to heart. You've got to lose a little bit of yourself. You know, I remember in Blood of a Poet that you have to die a little bit for your art, you know, and that's definitely something that you have to definitely take close to heart. But, well, I want to thank you both. You've been really helpful, insightful, and we're really looking forward to showing Nobody Famous on February 6th at the New Jersey Film Festival. Please go to our website, njfilmfest.com, and click on where it says schedule for the Spring 2021 festival. And then there'll be another link to click. And then you can purchase tickets, get more information about Nobody Famous, and all the other wonderful films we'll be screening. We'll be screening 40 films between January 30th and February 21st. And I want to say thank you to both of you, and hope you have a wonderful, well, we're almost out of the woods with COVID, so hopefully we'll get to meet in person again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Al. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.